Hi and welcome to this video. I'm going to create several videos which explore the relationship between fractions, decimals and percentages, which are just three different ways of writing the same value, the same number. And at some point we'll explore why it's useful to have them in these different formats. So for this video today, we're just going to explore how to convert from fractions to decimals. So let's start. I've just written a few fractions up here which are just simple everyday fractions. And let's remember the numerator, the 1, is the top of the fraction and the denominator is the bottom. And when you think about a fraction, the bottom part of the fraction is the division. And if you think about half, it always helps if you revert back to think of things that you can see clearly, and then you can apply them to numbers that are not so easy to recognize or visualize. We could say half. Here's some circles here. So if I was wanting half of this circle, I could just put a line across the middle. It would have to be cutting it exactly into two parts, and I've created two halves. So with a quarter, we'd have to divide it into 4. So just think of it in that way, and then we can recognize that it is a division. So based on that, we can say that 1/2 is just 1 divided by 2. And then we can do the sum as if we were doing any division. And the method that we've been using is the bus stop method. There's other names for it, which is like that. And we put the number that we're starting with inside and the number that we're dividing by on the outside. Now, before we go any further, I think it's important for us to recognize that if we write the number 1, we could also write it like that, or like that, or like that, and so on. When we've got a decimal point after it, we can put zeros and it doesn't change the value of our number. And that is a useful bit of information for when you're dividing with fractions. Right, let's get started. So we start by saying, how many times does 2 go into 1? Well, it doesn't wholly, so we're going to put a 0 here. And then what would usually happen is whatever we've got left over from this column would be carried over to our next place value, our next column. Now we don't have anything, so we're going to create it. So we're just going to put a decimal point, top and bottom, so that we're keeping things in place value. And then we're going to put a 0 here. And that's absolutely fine to do because as we can see here, 1 and 1.0 mean exactly the same thing. Now, how we've been doing it is we haven't used this 1, so we're carrying it over to our next place value. And because we're moving to the right, it's going to be worth 10 when it comes over to this column. So we're now looking at 2's into 10. And 2's into 10 goes 5 times exactly, no remainder, so we are done. Therefore, 1/2 written as a decimal is 0.5. Let's move on. So the next one we're going to look at is 1/4, which would be 1 divided by 4. Let's set it up using our bus stop. So 4 on the outside, 1 on the inside. 4's into 1 doesn't go wholly, so we're going to put a 0 there. And I'm going to put a decimal point, put another 0 here, so that I can carry that 1 over, which makes the next one 10. 4's into 10 goes twice. 4 times 2 is 8, so we're going to have a remainder of 2. Looking back at this, we know that we could carry on. We could put another 0 here. we're going to take the 2 that's left from this column and put it in front, which makes 20. So we can now say 4's into 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times exactly. So we have an answer of 0.25. 1 divided by 5 is going to give us 1/5. So let's write it up. 5 into 1. Can't do that wholly. So we're going to put decimal point, create another 0, and carry that 1 over. 5's into 10 goes exactly 2 times. So 1/5 is 0.2. Right, let's have a look at a third. So this is 1 divided by 3. 3's into 1, doesn't go, so we're going to put a decimal point, another 0, and carry that 1 over. 3's into 10 goes 3 times, that makes 9, so we've got 1 left over, carry that 1 over, put a 0, and again 3's into 10 goes 3 times, let's extend that line, so that's going to make 9, 1 left over, and what you see here, hopefully, is that this is just going to carry on. We're always going to have 1 left over, which is going to create 10 in the next column, and so this pattern's going to emerge where we just keep having 3's into 10 goes 3 times, 1 left over, and so it goes on. So once we recognize that that's happening, we can stop and just write that as 0.3, and we can put a point above there to show that that is a recurring number. Recurring number. So that is just going to go on eternally. Never ending. Let's try 1/6. Okay, same pattern. We're carrying that over. 6 into 10 goes once, and this time we have a remainder of 4. We're going to put a new 0 there. 6 into 40 goes 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. So we're going to have 4 left over. And can you see that again we're getting into this pattern of recurring numbers. 6 goes into 46 times, remainder 4, and so on. So we can write this as 1.16, and we can put a dot above the 6 to show that that is a recurring number. So that really is all there is to fractions to decimals. You're just doing a division, and you can just keep going until you get a definite ending where there's no remainders, or when you can see that recurring number going onwards. And you can, once you see that, then you can stop and show it that way. So I would have a practice. You could do fractions up to 1/10. But also have a go at doing something like 2/3.